Hi, everybody. I have been postponing doing a video on what's going on in the Middle East for days now because I haven't been able to figure out how to speak about it, what to say about it. I haven't been able to settle my soul. And then this morning, I heard a rabbi speaking. He was being interviewed, and he said, "What happened a week ago was unthinkable." And that word caught my attention. And I thought, it's exactly right. It is unthinkable. That's the era that we're living in now. We're living in the era of the unthinkable, the unimaginable, the impossible. We have crossed a Rubicon. We have crossed a Rubicon. And I think that it's two things. One is it's challenging us to start thinking in ways we haven't been able to, which offers as much hope as it does obstacles. It's always an obstacle course. I saw this interview with an Israeli soldier, and the reporter said, "How did you let this happen? How could this happen?" He said, we were not prepared for this, but that's changed now. Now the army's back, as it were. He said, "We didn't think this was possible." There it is, the unthinkable. They didn't think that Israel could be attacked like this. Why not? Why didn't you think about the unthinkable? Why not? What parameters are thinking so that we only go so far? We go to our safe zone, and that's as far as we'll allow our thinking and our imagination to go. We don't consider, but what if? But what if? Right? Europe didn't think there'd be another war after World War II. It was unthinkable that a nation would dare invade another nation and start this incredible war. And yet here we are. And so now and I think it is, for me, my list of what's unthinkable is so long. It's unthinkable to me that we could have a House of Representatives without a leader for so long in the midst of all of these things happening in our world. And yet it is. That our own nation could come to such a disastrous, constant war within its own ranks. And yet, isn't that where this world is? It is a world of conflict. It is a world of endless, endless conflict. And honestly, what is it that everybody wants? What is it that is generating this constant conflict? And it's really almost unthinkable that we can find ways through this. And so we go back and think about ways that we've turned to in the past. War. We'll just kill the people that are annoying us. We'll just destroy them. The language gets more destructive, certainly in Congress. The language gets more destructive. And then when you actually are in the battlefield, the decision will just kill Hamas. We'll just wipe them out. It's like at the end of World War II, when everyone thought the Nazis were done. They weren't done. You can't kill an ideology. You cannot kill an ideology. You can kill the people who at the time supported that ideology, but you can't kill it. It just makes its way somewhere else. And where did it go? It went into our Congress. It went into the white nationalists here. You can't kill these ideas that people have, that they are entitled or they're protected because they didn't have enough. what's unthinkable is how the human condition can resolve what is an explosion of resentments and wounds and just causes and unjust causes, where both sides are right and both sides are wrong, where both sides have valid points of view and totally self-serving ones. The truth is the human community doesn't have the psychic or spiritual resources to actually absorb all the wounds that we have. We just don't. We don't have it. And think about what it takes to heal something in you. Think about what it takes. And think about all that's required to get you from one stage of grief or pain into a place where you feel like, okay, I can keep going again. Think of all the issues that put you in grief or generate that kind of pain and what it takes. You need a witness. You need someone to witness your wounds. You need someone to validate. The witness serves in that role. And then what do you need? That comes the big next. Do you need vengeance? Do you need justice? What does that look like to you? The human journey is built on this trajectory, that in order for me to feel better, to get over woundedness, I must have justice according to what I feel just is. It is unthinkable that I can move forward without that. Now, we have a planet of people feeling this way. You know, excuse me, one of the images I use in my workshops is an image of a 12-story building, just the shell, the square, and then lines, each one indicating a floor. And I use that because it's so incredibly useful. And I tell my students, as I'm telling you now, to imagine that you are that building, that when you're born, you're the building. And certain things are locked into place, and that forms the frame of the building, so it can't be moved, it can't be changed. So I was born in Chicago. That's part of the frame of my building. I was born to a Polish-Austrian Catholic family. It's locked in. I was born in December, locked in. I mean, there are things that form, and this becomes the first floor of your building. So from our first floor, when we look out the window, we have the most limited view. From the time our building is built, our pieces are locked in that cannot be changed. Then the journey of life is, what floor do you want to see your life from? What floor do you want to think from? How much data do you want to include into yourself as a way of processing the incredible obstacles that is the journey of life, that make up the journey of life? The obstacles that comprise the journey of life. From the first floor, when we look at life from the first floor, it looks as though our problems are the ones that are the most important, because that's all we can see. That's all we can see. And we're usually, from the first floor, you're familiar with your neighborhood, so it's the street you live on, so to speak, symbolically and otherwise. And you tend to live among people that are very similar in some way to you. Expats move where expats are in other countries. We move among our own, so to speak. But eventually, we have to start moving our way up the floors of the building. Because when we reach a certain level, we realize this is not enough of a way of thinking. And on the first and second floor, We want life to be reduced to its simplest form. 2 plus 2 is 4. There's right and there's wrong. There's good and there's bad. There's winner and loser. And that's how we live. So on the first floor, life is organized around the archetypal pattern of polarity. Night and day, good and bad, angel and demon. It's as simple as that. That's how simple life is. That's all there's to it, but it's not. But it's not. As you go up a floor, you start realizing that maybe there are other people, not just on your block, but there's a whole neighborhood. And what are they doing? What do they have to say? What about their lives? And do their lives count in terms of the quality of life in this neighborhood? Maybe. Well, I guess they do. Do they want to include me? I hope so. Then you go up to another floor and you say, well beyond your neighborhood, you start seeing the state you live in, the country you live in. Each floor in yourself offers you a wider lens of the size, the depth, the scope of your life, and your capacity to engage with reason, to engage with, why did this happen? Why did this happen? What's going on here? Who are these people? When I grew up, my dad was a Marine from World War II. And excuse me, and he was in the Marine divisions that hit Guadalcanal. So he spent 44 months in the Pacific, and that really formed him. And if they could have identified PTSD back when I was growing up, I think my father would have qualified. He had reoccurring bouts with malaria all through the 50s, and then he would have flashbacks during thunderstorms that he was being bombed. And how that influenced me was that I thought, what's wrong with my father? And my mom would say, Daddy went through a bad war. And this is, and I thought, And then I saw a movie when I was around, I think 8 or 9. It was called Guadalcanal Diary. And it had actual footage of the Marines divisions landing on Guadalcanal. And I thought, oh my God, that's where Dad, my first song that I could sing was the Halls of Montezuma, which is the Marine anthem. So I ran upstairs and I said, Daddy, the war's on TV. And he came down and he looked, and there he saw this footage of the Marines landing and getting just massacred in Guadalcanal. And he started crying and he left the room. And now I thought I'd made my father cry. That was the moment I turned to studying war. I'm not kidding you. I have never not been reading about wars, military conflicts, ever since then. And I would, as the years went by, I would, read 5 years on Russian history and the European history, Civil War history, just because the tendency, the need in us to solve problems with war, to conquer other people, to take what's not theirs, to dominate other people, to be superior to other people. This is the darkness in human nature. And it's universal. It doesn't belong to any country. It belongs to everybody. This is a human condition. Every single war, every single country was started by war. I mean, there were wars everywhere. Wars for boundaries. Wars. Washington fought in the Canada colonial war with Canada, trying to figure out the boundaries of who went where. And all the people that lose their lives when invaders come in. Need I remind you of American history before it gets rewritten? Conflict, wars, domination. This is human nature. Now, what's unthinkable is really this extraordinary moment in time. It's unthinkable that we could face an explosion in the Middle East. But I want you to think about going up the floor of your building and getting out of yourself, getting out of saying that can never happen, because that's what got Israel in trouble. They said, oh, this could never happen, and it did. So you have to get to a floor inside of yourself that says, well, I've got to stop telling myself certain things can't happen, because maybe they can. Yes, indeed. Let's get to the floor where nuclear exchange can happen. And don't tell yourself again. We've grown so accustomed to living with an ever-present nuclear holocaust that we don't even think about it anymore. We don't even think about it. We actually think that it can't happen, which is exactly why it can. Which is exactly why it can. And as this temperament and fever of rage, resentment, conflict is brewing everywhere. In my city, yesterday, a 6-year-old Muslim boy, a 6-year-old Muslim boy, was stabbed to death by his landlord, by the landlord from the family. Why? Because he was Muslim. And the landlord was so enraged over the Middle East. He thought, well, not just Muslim, he was Palestinian. So he kills a 6-year-old. That boy was sent to the hospital with a knife still sticking in him. Okay? I think that's unthinkable. This idea that our anger, our personal anger, deserves an audience. And not just an audience, but deserves that we are entitled to having the world change because we're angry, because unjust things happen to us. You know what? That's unthinkable. And it's unrealistic. And it's dangerous. And it's also, in the language of Buddha, an illusion. We cannot, all of us, decide my anger is so important that it should reorganize the events of everybody's lives. My anger is my issue for me to deal with within my world, in the world behind my eye, not in front of it. Not in front of it. It is unthinkable that we can sculpt this world to be a just and fair place. I ask you, as someone who has been a lifelong student of history, to find me the moment in history where any people have accomplished that at all. It doesn't exist here. And what do our spiritual teachers tell us? It doesn't exist here. This planet wasn't designed for you, for us, for any generation to regroup, reorganize, and stop the chaos and decide everybody will have a fair and equal life. Why? Because there's darkness. There is darkness. There is greed. There is this sense that I deserve more than that person. There is racial superiority that drips everywhere. These are the elements that create the world we are now living in today, and it is unthinkable that it can sustain itself with these characteristics brewing in human nature. In human nature. As you go up the floors in your building, you will reach a floor where your language shifts from within. So instead of talking to yourself like this, I wonder what the purpose of my life is, and where's my comeuppance, and where's my justice. You take the word my out, because you have to shift your vocabulary to get up with each level. You have to introduce words, and you have to expel certain words. You have to get rid of the word blame, deserve, entitled, and my. When you get to that place where you can release those toxic words, then you ask this question: what is the purpose of life? Not my life, life. What am I doing here? What is my capacity as a human being to make a difference in this world? How? Not a difference for those people, these people. Not so I can lessen the quality of life for those people and increase the quality for these people. I have to serve life, because as you emerge, I want you to turn to your body for a moment, to your bio-spiritual ecology that is your physical body. And here, you learn that your body operates on the laws of holism. On the laws of holism. What is in one is in the whole. The laws of holism. They govern your health. They govern your health. And you know that. You know that if a doctor said to you, you know what, you're not feeling well, and I know it, so I have this medicine here, and it's going to blow out your kidneys, but you can have a kidney transplant, but it's going to make your heart feel better, and it may cost you a kidney, but you got two, so what the heck? What do you think? Anybody with an ounce of common sense would walk away from that and say, I want to treat my whole self. You are a micro-earth, a micro-earth. As you conduct yourself in your earth, around your earth, with you, and the power that you have to generate what you create, co-creation, to generate your choices. That is what you create. That is like a cell in your body contributing to the whole cell. And you know one rogue cell can bring you down because it can shift to cancer. So one rogue cell has the power to bring down the whole. And healing one cell has the power to enhance the whole. So don't underestimate your role in the whole of what's happening. That too is unthinkable. You can't even imagine you have that kind of power, but you do. But you do. Learning to access and ascend these levels shifts your capacity to engage with the whole of life, because this is the job. This is the job of consciousness, to go beyond the boundaries of the address where you were born and the package you came in, and begin to include what's the history of what's happening here. On the first floor, all you see is what happened because you're looking out one window. But consciousness requires that you expand and become conscious of, how did this happen? Where did it begin? What? And then you realize all pain. This is the explosion of pain. This is the explosion of people feeling unjust. This is the explosion of people feeling the need to protect from a Holocaust of years ago. Someone could say, this has no resolution. I mean, where are you going to go with this? And that too is unthinkable. This is where we have to start thinking the unthinkable. Here's another thing that's unthinkable. Do you know that we've entered a galactic community? There's an office now in Washington, D.C. that's preparing to release so much of its documentation and findings and films, proving that there's life in other galaxies, and that life has been in contact with us, and further, that the messages of these beings from other planets are galactic friends, have been two consistent messages reported by people all over the world. One, get your act together when it comes to your ecology, your climate. You're killing yourselves with the way you treat the climate. And two, drop the nuclear weapon stuff. Stop killing each other. You know what? The Pentagon found this so awful. They went to Hollywood and they said, we need some movies here that show, extraterrestrials invading the earth and destroying it, so that people have a hostile sense about the Federation that's out there. It is unthinkable that we can become a planetary community. But we've crossed the Rubicon and we've entered the age of holism. Look at your body. Your body has entered the age of holism. Thinking in fractured thoughts, thinking in fractured emotions is exactly what fractures you. And in turn, we pass that on to others. You know what? I'm going to do I'm going to do a class on escorting you up the floors of your building so that you can have a sense of how to utilize the consciousness that is inside of you, of what the world looks like as you ascend, what you need to dispel, what you need to include. We'll do that. I'll let you know when. I'll create this class and put it online. But in the meantime, here's what's unthinkable. That you can affect what's happening in the world by who you are, where you are. Yes, you can. And of course, you've heard me say it 1,000 million times. Turn to prayer. I don't care. I'm so not into religion, but I am into. There is no such thing as a God who has a religion. Human beings have religions, and look where it gets us. There's only one source. The divine is light, the divine is love, and the divine is law. That's the nature of the cosmos. It is impersonal and totally intimate, and every prayer is heard. And so we pray that we can become a species capable of thinking the unthinkable. We could find resolutions to problems where yesterday we would decide, my only way through this is to kill you. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Maybe somehow it's unthinkable, but we could think about some way to coexist. You have children, I have children. I love my children, you love your children. Right there, we have grounds for humanity. Right there. Hover over us all, God, because this moment in time is truly unthinkable, where it can lead, and also the possibilities of what could emerge if we make light-filled choices. Thank you.